I want to start today with a bit of a visualization exercise. It's something I was thinking about while reading through this massive stack of research you brought in.
Okay, yeah. I'm always game for a mental exercise. Where are we going with this?
So we are standing in your driveway. You're looking at the front of your house. You see the front door, maybe some nice landscaping, the windows, the walkway. But then you look slightly to the side. What is the single biggest visual element of that home?
Well, it's the garage door. Hands down.
Right. It takes up, what, a third of the facade? Sometimes half if you have a three-car garage.
Easily half, and yet it is arguably the most invisible part of the house.
That's the paradox. We treat it like magic. You press a button, this massive wall just vanishes into the ceiling. You press it again, it reappears. But looking at these technical guides and safety protocols from LMS Garage Doors, that magic is actually a massive engineering feat that we are dangerously complacent about.
Complacent is, well, it's a polite way to put it. The source material actually refers to the garage door as the forgotten giant. And honestly, that's the perfect frame for this deep dive. We are talking about the largest, heaviest, and most complex moving mechanical system in your entire life, and most people don't think about it until it tries to kill them or their wallet.
A bit of a grim opening, but point taken. So today we are breaking down everything provided by LMS Garage Doors. For context, these are the specialists serving the Sacramento Valley citrus heights, Folsom, Roseville, Placer County. They've given us a look under the hood, literally, at what keeps this giant moving.
And the mission today is pretty specific. We want to move you, the listener, from passive observation, which is where most of us live, to active directive oversight.
Fancy terms. What's that actually mean in plain English?
It means stop assuming the door will just work forever.
Yeah.
You need to understand the physics, the California laws that actually dictate how these things operate now, and most importantly, the line between I can fix this with a wrench, and if I touch this, I might lose a finger.
That is a line I definitely want to clarify. But let's start with the engineering, because this was my first wait a minute moment in the reading. I think most people assume the little box on the ceiling, the opener, is doing all the heavy lifting.
That is the #1 misconception, and it is the exact reason why so many people burn out their motors way too early. The sources use this great analogy, brain versus muscle.
Let's unpack that. Who is the brain and who is the muscle in this scenario?
The opener, that electric motor box hanging on your ceiling, is the brain. Its only job is to provide logic and direction. It says go up or go down. It pushes and pulls just a little bit to get things started, but it is not designed to deadlift 300 pounds of steel.
300 pounds. Is that really what we're dealing with?
Easily. If you have an insulated double door or a custom wood door, it's incredibly heavy. If the motor had to lift that dead weight, the gears would strip or the motor would just burn out in a week.
So if the motor isn't lifting it, what is?
The muscles. The springs. Whether you have that long coil above the door header, the torsion spring, or the system tucked into a tube like the Wayne Dalton Torque Master, those springs are doing 90 to 95% of the work.
So the springs are under tension, basically wanting to pull the door up, counteracting gravity, pulling it down.
Precisely. In a perfectly engineered scenario, the tension of the spring exactly matches the weight of the door. So to the motor, the door feels like it weighs maybe 5 or 10 pounds. It just gently nudges it along the track.
Okay, but springs get tired. They're metal, they stretch, they cycle thousands of times.
And that is the failure chain LMS talks about. It's insidious because it happens so slowly. The springs weaken over time. They lose their muscle. But you don't notice because the motor is a trooper. It starts compensating. It works harder. It draws more amps. It heats up.
It's picking up the slack for the lazy muscles.
Exactly. And then one day, pop, your opener dies. You think, dumb, cheap opener. You buy a new one, install it, and you burn that one out in 6 months too. Because you never fixed the actual problem and the springs were dead.
That's actually a really expensive misunderstanding. You're treating the symptom, not the disease. So how do we check? I mean, I can't exactly weigh my garage door.
No, but you can perform the 50% rule diagnostic. This is the gold standard test. The sources say every homeowner should do this once a year.
Walk us through it. Is this dangerous?
Not if you do it right. Step 1, close the door completely. Step 2, disconnect the brain. You know that red rope hanging from the track?
The forbidden tassel. I tell my kids never to touch it.
Good parenting. But for this test, you need to pull it. That releases the emergency latch and disconnects the carriage from the drive chain or screw. Now the door is manual. You are essentially holding the door without the help of the motor.
Okay, so now it's just me and the door.
Step 3, lift the door by hand.
Just lift it.
If the springs are healthy, you should be able to lift it with one hand. It should feel surprisingly light. You lift it to the halfway point, about waist or chest high, and then here's the scary part for some people, you let go.
Just let go. Won't it come crashing down on my foot?
That's the verdict. If the door is balanced, it will float right there at the 50% mark. It stays put.
Because the tension of the springs exactly matches the weight of the door at that specific height.
Exactly. Now, if it drifts down toward the floor, your springs are under tension. They are weak. If it shoots up toward the ceiling, which can happen with overtension springs, they are too tight. But if it floats right there, effectively weightless at the halfway mark, you are perfectly balanced.
That's a really elegant little test. It's just simple physics.
It is. And if you fail that test, especially if it drifts down, you need to call a pro immediately. Because every time you run that door with the motor attached, you are murdering your opener.
Okay, so we have the heavy lifting covered. That explains the mechanics. But the LMS material also highlights a silent killer. Something less dramatic than gravity, but just as destructive over time.
Friction. They call it the slow motion earthquake.
I love that imagery. A slow motion earthquake. It sounds like a bad disaster movie.
It fits, though. Think about a garage door system. It's a lot of metal parts bolted together. Tracks, rollers, hinges, struts. When things get dry or gritty, they vibrate.
And vibration is the enemy of tightness.
Right. It's a low-frequency shudder. You might not even hear it over the motor noise, but that vibration travels through the frame. It backs screws out of their threads. It loosens lag bolts right out of the studs.
So the door is literally shaking itself apart.
Slowly, yes, until one day a track pulls away from the wall or a roller pops out of the track entirely.
So the defense against this earthquake is lubrication.
Yes, but, and I need you to really lean in on this part, this is where the DIY crowd usually gets it wrong. This is the biggest mistake highlighted in the guides.
I'm almost afraid to ask because I have a feeling I'm guilty of this.
Ah.
I grabbed the blue and yellow can, right? The WD-40.
And you have just committed a garage door crime.
I knew it!
Yeah.
Why? I use it on everything. It stops squeaks.
It stops squeaks temporarily. But WD-40 stands for water displacement. It is a solvent. It is designed to clean and strip, not to provide long-term lubrication.
So I'm stripping away whatever factory grease was there to begin with.
You're stripping it, and worse, WD-40 is sticky when it dries. It leaves a gummy residue. Now think about your garage. It's not a clean room. You have dust, leaves, maybe pet hair.
Sawdust from projects,
Yeah.
dirt blowing in from the driveway.
Exactly. All that particulate matter sticks to the WD-40 residue. It turns into a gritty paste. LMS calls it sludge. You are effectively making a grinding paste like liquid sandpaper inside your rollers and on your tracks. You are actively accelerating the wear.
Okay, I stand corrected. My
Yeah.
blue and yellow can is going back on the shelf. So if that is banned, what is the holy grail? What should we be using?
White lithium grease.
White lithium grease. Okay.
It comes in a spray can, just like the other stuff. You can get it at any hardware store. But it's different chemically. It dries to a waxy, slick finish. It repels moisture, it doesn't attract dust, and it stays slippery for a long time.
And is there a technique? Do I just spray and pray?
The protocol is clean before you coat. You have to wipe the old gunk out first. Get a rag, maybe some automotive brake cleaner, or even a mild household cleaner, and wipe the tracks down. Get the grit out. Then you apply the white lithium.
And where are we aiming?
You want to hit the pivot points on the hinges, the bearings inside the rollers, if you have steel rollers, and the springs themselves.
The springs. I wouldn't have thought to spray the spring.
Yes. As the spring coils and uncoils, the metal rubs against itself. Lubricating the spring reduces that friction and noise significantly. It stops that boing sound you sometimes hear.
Simple enough. Clean it, use the right grease, save the system.
It takes 10 minutes once a year.
Yeah.
It adds 5 years to the life of the door.
I want to pivot here because we've been talking about maintenance, but there is a legal and safety dimension to this that I found genuinely surprising. I didn't realize the California government had strong opinions on my garage door opener.
Oh, they definitely do. We need to talk about Senate Bill 969.
SB 969. Sounds bureaucratic. Why should a listener in Roseville or Folsom care about this?
Because of where we live. Think about the Sacramento Valley and the foothills. What are our big environmental threats?
Wildfires and severe winter storms.
Which both lead to one thing, power outages.
Right. The grid goes down.
Now imagine a worst-case scenario. A wildfire evacuation order comes through. It's 2 a.m., the power is cut. You load the kids and the dog into the car, you hit the garage door button. Nothing happens.
Okay, that is terrifying.
It gets worse. Most people, in a panic, cannot physically lift their garage door. Maybe the springs are old and the door is heavy. Maybe they can't figure out the release cord in the pitch black with smoke in the air.
You're trapped.
The sources call it the cage scenario. The garage becomes a cage for your vehicle and your family. SB 969 was passed to prevent exactly this. It mandates that all new garage door openers installed in California must include an integrated battery backup system.
So if the house loses power, the opener has a small reserve battery just to get the door up.
Exactly. It ensures that your primary large-scale exit works when the grid fails. It's not a luxury feature. It is a strict life safety requirement.
So if I call a handyman and he tries to install an old opener he found on Craigslist that doesn't have a battery,
He is breaking the law, and more importantly, he is compromising your escape route. If you are getting a new installation in Placer or Sacramento County, you need to verify it has that battery backup. LMS Garage Doors emphasizes this heavily. They won't even install a unit without one because they follow the code to the letter.
that's a crucial consumer tip. It's not just about being legal, it's about not being trapped.
Absolutely, it's peace of mind.
Let's get back to the door itself. We've talked about the 50% rule and the white lithium rule, but there's also a section in the notes about sensory diagnostics, basically learning the language of your house.
The door is usually screaming for help long before it breaks. We just tend to tune it out because we are used to the noise.
So let's play translator. If I hear a high-pitched squeak, what is the door saying?
Squeaking is usually a cry of thirst. It means dry bearings or metal rubbing on metal. It's asking for that white lithium grease. That's the easy fix.
Okay. What about a grinding or a banging noise?
That's an angry noise. Grinding usually means a roller has seized up, it's sliding instead of rolling, or the track is completely misaligned. That is not a DIY fix. That's a call a pro noise.
Here's one I've experienced. I push the button, the motor hums for a second, hesitates, and then starts moving. Or it moves a few inches and just stops.
They call that logic fatigue or system delays. It usually means the brain is struggling. It could be the capacitor inside the motor is failing, or the force settings are off because the door is getting too heavy back to those bad springs again.
It's the brain saying, I'm not sure I can do this.
Exactly. It's sensing too much resistance. And obviously, if you smell ozone or smoke coming from the motor housing,
Pull the plug.
immediately, that's electrical fire territory. Do not pass go.
Now, this brings us to the danger zone. I'm a pretty handy guy. I'll change a light fixture. I'll fix a leaky sink. But the sources are extremely aggressive about where the DIY line stops with the garage doors.
And for good reason. I cannot stress this enough. There are components on your garage door that store lethal amounts of potential energy.
No.
We aren't talking about a pinched finger. We are talking about broken bones, lost eyes, or worse.
We're talking about the springs again, right?
The torsion springs and the lift cables. Think about it. That spring is wound tight enough to lift 300 pounds. If that tension releases suddenly into a wrench you're holding or into your hand, the physics are incredibly unforgiving.
There was a specific warning about the bottom brackets, too.
Yes, the bottom fixtures on the door panel where the cables actually attach. To the untrained eye, it just looks like a bracket held on by a couple of bolts. You might think, oh, I'll just loosen this to adjust the roller.
Do not do that.
Never do that. That bracket is the anchor point for all that cable tension. If you unbolt it, the cable can pull that bracket up with the force of a bullwhip. It is incredibly dangerous.
So the rule is if it's painted red, because sometimes they are, or if it's attached to a cable, don't touch it.
Correct. Look, but don't touch.
Speaking of looking, there's a visual warning sign called bird caging. I've never heard this term before.
It's a great visual. You know how the lift cable is made of braided steel wire, like a rope made of metal strands?
Right.
When it starts to fail, the inner core breaks or the strands start to unravel. They puff out. It looks like a messy bird's nest or a little wire cage on the cable.
So if I look at my cables and I see them fraying or puffing out,
That is a code red. That cable is holding on by a thread. It could snap the next time you open the door. If you see a bird caging or if you see a gap in the coils of your spring, stop using the door. Park on the street. Call LMS.
that's a clear takeaway. Don't gamble with the high-tension stuff.
It's just not worth it. The emergency room visit is way more expensive than the service call.
So let's talk about the solution here. We've mentioned them a few times, LMS Garage Doors. They are the source of all this data. What makes them the reference vendor for the Sacramento area?
Well, aside from the standard credentials, licensed, bonded, insured, family-owned, it's their pricing model that really stood out to me in the research.
The zero premium emergency rates.
That is incredibly rare in the service industry.
It is. I mean, If I have a plumbing disaster on a Saturday night or a holiday, I expect to pay double. That's just the stupid tax for breaking things on the weekend.
Right. But LMS has taken a different stance. They offer 24/7 availability nights, weekends, holidays, without charging a premium rate.
Why? That seems like leaving money on the table.
It's a safety philosophy. They know that if your spring snaps at 10 p.m. on a Friday and your car is trapped, you might hesitate to call if you think it's going to cost $500 just for the visit. They want you to call so you're safe and your home is secure.
That is huge for budget predictability. You know, the rate is the rate regardless of when the disaster happens.
Exactly. And their coverage is impressive. They are headquartered in Citrus Heights, but they cover the whole spread. Folsom, Roseville, Rockland, El Dorado Hills, Lincoln, all of Sacramento proper.
So if you are in the valley or the foothills, they are your local crew.
And they handle the full spectrum. Repairs on springs, cables, off-track doors, which, by the way, are a nightmare to fix yourself, and full replacements. They partner with the big brands like Amar, Wayne Dalton, LiftMaster.
I also saw they offer free estimates and a 1-year satisfaction guarantee on workmanship.
Which, again, points to transparency. They aren't trying to hide costs. They want to fix the problem correctly the first time.
So bringing this all together, we've covered the physics, the sludge, the law, and the safety risks. What is the synthesis here?
The synthesis is that your garage door is an investment in security, not just a utility. It protects your home, your car, your tools, and your family. Neglecting it is a gamble you really don't need to take.
It's about respecting the machine.
Respect the giant. Do the routine. Look, listen, and test. Check the balance with that 50% rule. Lube the springs with white lithium, please. And if you see something dangerous, respect the physics and call a pro.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought that really stuck with me from the reading. We have walls all over our house. They are static. They sit there. But the garage door is the only wall that moves.
That's a really powerful image.
It really is. It's a moving wall that we suspend over our heads and our children's heads multiple times a day. If you don't respect the tension that holds that wall up, that movement can turn dangerous very quickly.
Absolutely. It's a machine, and machines need care.
So if you are in Folsom, Sacramento, Citrus Heights, or anywhere nearby, and you haven't looked at your garage door in a while, or maybe you just mentally failed that 50% test while listening to this, reach out to LMS Garage Doors.
You can call them at 9168-99233. That's 9168-99233. Or find them online at lmsgaragedoors.com. Whether it's getting compliant with SB 969 so you aren't trapped in a power outage, or just fixing a squeak before it becomes a snap, they are the ones to trust.
Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. Go check your garage doors, people. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay safe.